Good.
Go ahead, Chuck.
All right, welcome everybody. Glad to see all of you here today for this demo. This is George is going to be walking us through his process for axing out his spoon blanks, getting them down to a rough billet, and then taking that down to an actual near finished form using the spoon mule. And George is phenomenal at this. Let me tell you, I've seen him do this a few times, and it is always kind of mind-boggling how quickly he can manage to work through and take his spoons down to, like I said, a near finished state. So yes, really, really impressive stuff. So with that, we are going to spotlight George, and George is going to take it away. Kevin, I believe you're going to have to spotlight him since you now are the host.
Got it.
So yeah, we're going to make a weight. First, we try with a tangential spoon like that. It's the number 20. Template is available for everyone. And I start with the block like that. So here will be the bowl. To center the rose wings in the middle, I really have to see this space, these.
The heartwood sapwood split.
Yeah, right. So I start with that, just axing. So I start to slim down from the side.
Which I think what George was explaining there is that he tries to orient the spoon and the log so that the bowl has some heartwood sapwood in it, and the handle also has some heartwood sapwood in it. So he's thinking about that at this stage. And he told us that he wears those rubber gloves for extra grip while he's using the axe.
So yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I want. So I want this to be like this and this to line up somehow. So I have to remove a lot of sapwood. And then I go from the side to just make that look nice. And I can take away a little bit from the back. So now I have that. I can work down the sides a little bit. Just remove some material. I start with a very big block of wood.
Yeah, whenever I make a tangential spoon, I'm always shocked at how much wood you have to chop away.
I always try to get my leg out of the way. If the axe swings through, I have some space to stop it. So, and now I have this rough billet. I want to create the crank first. So I'm trying to create a quite clean surface.
So creating the clean surface to draw on, but also creating the crank and the beginning of the shape of the handle.
And I want to have some hardwood on the tip of the handle too. So I remove a lot of material over here too. And now I start axing a little bit more delicate. You have to be careful not to hit the bowl.
So one element for me that's different when I try to carve a George style spoon is that he puts big swoops in his handles. So there's another grain change at the top of the handle. And you can see that even in these axing stages, how he axes down the handle from about, I don't know, 4 inches in, and then he turns it around and axes down the handle the other direction because there's that grain change at the top of the swoop.
Yeah, so I have now pretty much an okay top surface. So I start for the first time to draw the spoon on the blank.
And this blue marker, George, is just for
drawing?
Yeah,
I like to draw the first image in blue because it's, I don't know, it's a little bit rough. It's a little bit, the surface is really rough. So I like to use a thicker pencil and just bigger line, and don't have to be too clear. So now I can even match the bowl with the rose rings and with this top part, so that all the rose rings are going symmetric to the spoon. So and I want it to be like that white over here. And I need this space like that and that. So that's what I need.
So you're drawing this now and it's a template. So they're all kind of looking the same and you've done this shape 10 times already. But when you're doing a regular spoon, how much will your final spoon match this drawing? Or is this just kind of a generic spoon shape?
So it's the first idea of the spoon. If I want to make it asymmetric or symmetric, how long the bowl will be, how wide the handle will be, and stuff like that. So I'm fixing this points.
Those fixed points, the two edges of the rim, the two edges of the handle, and how deep the neck is.
Yeah. So now I turn around the block and I use this branch over here so that I can clamp the spoon in like that, and I try to hit the spoon as right to the line.
This angle is great to see how steep he's actually hitting, how steep that angle is that he's hitting it, because the blank is tilted and it's supported in two spots.
The other side.
Oh man, I like the mobile cameraman. This is a new addition. I like that.
It's great. I think it really makes it, because I've seen George work before from a distance with a camera on him and you don't really get the detail of what he's doing.
I keep waiting to see the lens shatter as he hits it with the backswing.
Bam, bam, bam. This would be great in IMAX 3D with that acting. Right? It's cool that he tilts it so extreme, but he's still doing that. The chop is still up and down. That's something you always hear people teach, that the axe always is chopping vertically, and you tilt the billet, and you can really see that George really does that.
So I have now pretty much a rough shape. Yeah, I put, when I want to do more delicate axing, I put my finger on the blade to stabilize it and to be able to create a little bit more delicate form. Yeah, so now I round the bowl from the back side. So that's why I have my axe block like in a really funny angle. It's really like, I don't know, worn out to this side. So I can roll the spoon to the side while just keeping the same angle with the axe. And I could do that in the other direction too. A few leaf cuts. And I still have enough material for the hump. So, but now I'm going to slim the bowl a little bit more.
So really
about a centimeter of material on both sides, which is like you have to ask Kevin how many inches.
What did we figure out? I think a centimeter. What did we figure out? A quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch is 3.5. Quarter is about 6. So a centimeter is about a little bit.
3/8.
3/8, yeah.
It's 3/8 of an inch. I was gonna say it's a little bit less than half.
to hit that one is quite dangerous. So I place the axe where it should be and hit it like that. So now I created this little bevel and I can much more easily cut that.
Yeah, once that first line is there, your axe can kind of follow it. That's great. But the bump cut makes the first one safely.
Yeah. So here is the softwood hardwood line. So I slim down the handle a little bit more, I think, to get a more nice pattern and more structure on the tip, on the end of the bow, the handle.
The handle is going to be extra swoopy. Oh no, if you thin down both sides, I guess it'll be regular amounts of swoop.
Yeah, but I will leave material over here because I'm doing draw knife anyways, still. So now go a little bit more down here. And then turn around a bit and I start with that hit. And I really try to always have some material from the X block underneath where I hit.
Feel like to carve an authentic number 20, you have to have an X block with a branch on it, or George will be able to tell.
And yeah,
do they sell those axe blocks at Dictum?
I can sell them to you.
Shipping's going to be killer.
I just made a new one with just you can also like cut just, you don't need branches for that. You can also just go with the chainsaw and make some steps, but the branches helping to make it much more durable.
I have to say, your axing is incredibly efficient. You're clearly very skilled with your axe. Very impressive.
Yeah, but I don't have to go that far. So I'm not trying to really hit the line. I just rough out the blank like that. And now I'm changing the device and I go over to the spoon mule. And now I start with the surface again. So I leave the spoon. So George, I have these.
Hey, George, remember you were going to stop and answer questions if there were any. This would be a good time to do it, but when you change tools.
Yeah, that's right. So any questions?
I'm impressed with how George, he like turns the X block around, turns the spoon over and hits it right away. He doesn't like line up and take practice swings and think about anything. Anyway, anyone have any questions for George? If not, it would just keep the freight train running, I guess. All right, no questions, George.
Cool. So I have made the spoon mule by myself, and all I can say is, it was sort of important that you have like these 8 centimeters here, and these 5 centimeters there, and it's sticking out 3 centimeters. So that are pretty much the only measurements you really need for a spoon mule, because the rest I just thought, when I sit in this position and I want to work my arms over here, then I have to make that high and this long and so on. So, and I think the difference to the Michigan Sloyd spoon mule is that my jaws are sticking out much wider, much longer, because I have these spaces. So if I have something small I want to clamp, I just put these spaces underneath the spoon, and I color them to find them in the wood chips because they like to fly away. So, and they have like triangle shape that I have like different measurements, and I have a big one too. So yeah, that's what other people don't. I haven't seen that so much. So, and then I see.
George, the other thing I just noticed is the top of your jaws are rounded.
Yeah.
As opposed to flat square.
Yeah, I like to be that it's shaped like that a little bit.
Well, that's on the inside. I'm literally talking about if you look at the jaw from the side. If you look at the jaw from the side, that top surface is rounded.
Yeah, but this just happened during the time. So they were straight ones.
Right.
Okay. I'm wondering how much of your spoon mule is deliberately that shape, and how much have you just carved it over time as you overcarved?
Yeah, it's worn.
Yeah, it's. I use it as an X block for a while as well, so it looks really horrible on the top. And I pretty much only created this thing, and you see all the knife marks here, which are like fairly new. You see that I hit it with the draw knife quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that was straight ones, so yeah.
Cool.
So I have, and what I found out is really helping to put some duct tapes around so I glued it to the wood, the leather, but I put also some duct tape, and that helps a lot to just make it stay there where it should be. So the spacers, I clamp in the spoon. Now the first tool I use is the 8L30s from File. And normally they come with the straight edge, and I rounded this up to be like, because I realized that the corners like to get caught in the wood. So now, because this is a quite rounded, so it's a smaller radius, and it's really easy to just remove a lot of material with that. So I'm not trying to create I'm not following out the bow really. I just try to create an even and nice surface. And that also let me see how the growth rings are placed in the wood. And so I'm now doing the base for the pattern.
Well, right now, you're not thinking about the depth of the bowl or anything. You're just cleaning.
No, I know that I will be much deeper later. But I try to create this nice curve like this. I turn around the spoon and try to do the same on the other side.
George, can you talk a little about how your hands are positioned on that tool and where you're applying the force and everything?
Yeah, I always try to lean my arm like that. I rest my elbow on my leg, and I just try to, get as much pressure with my body behind the blade. So now you can see here, like,
George,
the rings are not really centered.
George, is your left hand doing any work, or is it just providing that pivot point?
No, it's like this close hand grip, like you do on when you do the thumb push, the potato peeler. It's a little bit the same, like that. So I'm doing a potato peeler without the thumb with my left hand, and just pushing with the right hand.
You have a bruise on your quadricep, right where your elbow digs into your quad?
No, only on my chest from spoons. I push against my chest.
Yeah, I have a bruise on my chest too. I was wondering about your leg.
So this is now looking still quite ugly, but I try to center the lines, and now I'm working a little bit on the handle. I start a little bit from the side, because then I don't have too much material on the blade. So I try not to put too much wood on the blade, so that it's not that hard to go through. And here it starts to be nice to have something underneath that is coming up a little bit. So now I go down really until I see the hardwood. Yeah, here it's coming through. A little bit darker color. So I try to create a really symmetric centered pattern here, and it's really nice when it's twisted a little bit and getting more diagonal out here.
You see where he's pulling towards himself now, that's where the grain changes in his handle.
So, and now you can create this surface with this draw knife, but it's a little bit more easy to just angle it and go with the slide knife quickly over here and over there.
You can already see that telltale George shape in the spoon.
Is that the Nick Westerman Floyd knife, George?
You want to talk about your tools, George? What axe were you using? What draw knife? What knife?
Okay, the axe is right now a Hans Carlsen, but I have a few other ones. So I really can recommend the Hans Carlsen as the axe. The other ones to be named is like Solwood and James Wood. And for sure, I think Julie Kalthoff. And I don't know about the Grand Force Brooks because I never had one. So yeah. And the Sloyd is just a self-made thing. I like, I don't find the really bellied blades really beautiful, but they work like really efficiency. So a belly is good for cutting, but not for looking.
It sure is a beautiful looking knife to me.
So now I decide I want to, the ball should be until here. I want to stop there. So I start drawing a center line and I have to place the rings a little bit better. Yeah.
I saw George do this yesterday and really want to call attention to the way he draws the bowl into the neck because I think it's really neat. And he explained he uses his wrist as a pivot point to get nice curves like a compass.
Yeah, so when you place your arm, your hand on your leg, you just can go like in a nice circle. And then you go out here and go around like that. And now I fix my elbow. And so I'm able to draw a nice round line like that.
And see how he crosses over at a certain point in the handle?
And then I just create here. I want to don't want to get smaller than that.
Yep.
And so we go for symmetric here. It's nice to, I forgot that cut. So
I really like the way George draws that neck transition where he crosses over and then draws the parallel lines to.
Yeah, I was noticing that too. That's really cool.
Real cool.
So yeah, the rest I leave like for later. So now I created this nice swoopy line. So this is pretty much like ready. And now I do this side, and that. So here I start with the draw knife again. I just cut away in this direction until this point and like that. And now I make a little helper facet. So I go just with a really low angle towards the line. And the same, like here, I can also turn the spoon around, but for this little facet, I leave it like it is. And now I can see from the top how deep I should go. So now I can see, without looking at that line, I can see where it is.
So I've seen a lot of people carve that first deep chamfer right to the line so they can see it from above, but George, I think, coined the term helper facet. I really like it.
So now I clamp the spoon like that, and maybe that is a little bit tilted to that side. I already created this little helper facet, so I know where to go. And I start with little stop shavings like that. Here I have to be careful. It's a little bit grain changing. Like that. So, and these things, they stop the blade from running into the bowl, like while axing as well. So,
hey George, I was noticing that you were doing most of your cuts before as bevel up cuts, like almost all your cuts were along the surfaces were bevel up, and then you switched to bevel down when you came down into that tighter area, right?
Yeah, but my draw knife is, so I can't really give good recommendations about draw knife because this is a really old one. And a friend of mine in Switzerland bought it in a used tool shop. And just because he wanted to try to grind a long blade on his Tormek. So he grinded it and said, oh, it's just lying around, you can have it. And I think, and I'm not really using really flat angle. So there's a quite of a convex on the bottom. And I try to be a little bit more scandy on the top, but it's also quite rounded or secondary. So it's more like a, not a scandy grind, it's a, how do you call it? When the bevel is not really total super duper flat. So it's a little bit
convex.
Yeah, a little bit convex just to get out of the material again. So yeah, like that. And then I just skip it to not turn the spoon around. So it's just more quick to just do it like that.
Gotcha.
At the end, I need to go a little bit, turn it like that. And then I turn around. Another helper facet. And so here you can see that it's too deep, so I can put this thing underneath. And yeah, this is too much in the wrong direction. So I better do this first. And I also start going a little bit, cutting off the bone, turn it around.
You said it was too much in the wrong direction. You meant you had too much to remove and you were gonna hit.
Yeah, the pushing is a stupid movement. So it's better to pull it.
To turn it around and pull.
Yeah. So this is not really cutting, this is more like, just get rid of it. So I'm not trying to make the grain change like perfect. This is for later for the knife. I just try to remove a good amount of material. And now now I can use the other spacer to make it bring the jaws more close to each other.
So George, a lot of people teach at this step you want all the walls to be vertical, but you've already begun tapering your handle in, right?
Yeah, but this is like my style, I think. And I want to, I'm really going quite thin over here and quite thin over there. And I always taper the handle a little bit like that. So it's just, yeah, it's just the way I do it.
Hey, George, there's one question in the chat from, is it Jeff Bishop? About how long ago was this tree felled that this wood is from?
Okay. This is a cherry tree which fell in February. So it's quite fresh, but it carves quite nice and it splits very good. So it sometimes depends on the tree, the time, the water and everything. So I picked this wood because it's acting really nicely. So you can never always know what you get. So it's not that cherry you have to settle down for 3 months. It's more like let it sit around for 3 months and then try.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. So I start now with the middle of the bowl. To just come down much, and then I go
coming down the end grade.
Like to make this round shape like your pull. And go like, so now we are here down to like 5 millimeters.
5 mil. We've said that's a little less than 1/4 of an inch.
I forgot now before to cut the tip of the spoon, so better to do that to really see how deep you can go from the back side. Like that. Before I go further on the handle, I now work a little bit the bowl. And for that, I start just hollowing the middle.
This is a different gouge now, right?
No, this is still the 8L.
Oh.
So before I was trying to create a nice swoop on the surface, and now I'm trying to gain depth. So I just try to get rid of all the material in the bowl.
I wonder if you had made the bowl deep earlier, if it would have made it too delicate for draw knifing the back of the bowl.
Yeah, but you have to watch out that you don't make the neck too thin, because now it's a lot of action going around in the bowl. So that's why I like to leave that a little bit more material there, and just do that with the knife later, and not getting too.
It also was an advantage, I would think, to not go too deep into the bowl early on, because you wanted to be able to clamp onto the bowl. So if it was overly convex, it would make it difficult to clamp onto it with the mule.
Nice.
But still can go deeper. I still have enough material.
Thinking about that force left to right is not something I think about with not using gouges.
And because the radius is now getting a little bit too wide for the beginning of the bowl, I go like with the grain. I'm not trying to be too perfect right now. Still just trying to get rid of material.
I feel like you can really see here how he reshaped that gouge really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally it's like this, it's stuck in there. So
get deeper into the bowl and deeper around the back.
Yeah. So at this stage, I really like to use the big swan neck gouge from the Westerman, because this is a really open sweep, and now I'm trying to get a little bit more perfect while cutting out the material of the bowl.
Will you go over this? Will you go over the whole bowl again before it's done with a spoon knife, or will you leave it from the swan neck?
No, I could leave it, because the swan neck is really doing a good job. But most of the time I go over. I have some really, really shallow hook knives, what I really like to, which I really like to use.
So this is just about the first gouge.
I think George's goal in every spoon is to use as many possible tools.
It would be no fun. You just go be done with the bowl, with the swan neck. You know, you need to have some more knives and use them.
So this is all about then the first gouge goes deep, but it creates ridges. The swan neck removes those ridges, leaves less ridges. And then your spoon knives are even more shallow of a sweep and make a smoother surface.
Yeah, and then I have the small Nick Westerman's gouge he's a little bit better to go into the more deeper into the beginning of the bowl. But this is not like necessary. Normally it's really close to the 8L with modified corners. So I forgot about the back of the handle a little bit. So this is coming now.
So this is where you
George, are those cut resistant gloves, or are they just regular old rubber gloves?
No, these are like regular cheap rubber gloves, but especially for axing, I just like to wear them, because they really help that the tools don't really slip in your hand.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, but it's some, how do you say, hat mich dran gewöhnt.
Get used to it.
Get used to it. So I'm not really trying to get a round thingy here. That's for later for the knife. And now I can even, yeah. I sometimes still clamp the spoon like that and go over the handle a little bit.
That one step there would take me so many cuts with a Sloyd.
Oh yeah, all of this. That's why it's so much more efficient to go at it with a draw knife.
Amazing.
And
Actually,
much less stress on your hands, your body, you know.
Actually, I'm quite lazy. That's why I like to use the most efficient tool on what I do. Yeah, so I would call it sort of done. So this is a stage where I go to before I use the hook knives and the Sloyd knives.
Look at so you still have some extra material in the neck because you're waiting to get in there with the Sloyd knife, right?
Yeah, all that part is not really easy with the draw knife. The draw knife I can create like nice swoops, but not really tight corners. So this is not easy. That all these delicate stuff on the rim here, it's still fuzzy and stuff like that. But
you know what I've often wondered, George, have you ever seen, or I wonder if there's a tool out there that is two-handled, the same as a draw knife, but not nearly as wide as a draw knife typically would be, that would allow you, almost like a Sloyd knife with two handles, that would allow you to get in there and do that still in the same technique as a draw knife, rather than, you know, a Sloyd knife.
Oh,
I think that there you have a problem of stability. So in this corner, I go with the Sloyd knife, which is much thinner than that. So
right.
If you imagine to be that tip coming out of here and growing in some other handle.
Yeah.
I think, and you can
snap
use
the blade.
Yeah, and in this point, you can use your other fingers. So you will use the Sloyd knife as a two-hand tool at this point, anyways.
Yep, gotcha.
I was just going to comment that we haven't heard a church bell ring, and then there was a church bell.
Yeah, there was.
Yes. So yeah, that's pretty much done. I'm prepared for another radial spoon, so I could just with a less explanation just go over it once more, or we just answer questions right now, whatever you want.
Well, yeah,
so,
let's open it up. Let's let people ask questions, and then, you know, once we've gotten to people's questions, I think that would be great to just have you do it start to finish without, you know, having to stop to answer questions and see how it goes.
Oh, good idea. That's cool. And the radial, I think, was even faster when we saw him do it yesterday. All right. Does anyone want to unmute and ask George a question? Or
so Jeff just asked a question in chat. What angle is your draw knife ground to? Do you know what the bevel angle is on it?
No, actually not.
Okay.
I can measure it and try to comment it in the YouTube video maybe. So I have some angle measurement tools, so I could do that.
Okay. Yep. That sounds good.
But
you can see really a little bit of a name there, but I couldn't really figure out what brand this draw knife is. But it's, I think, the perfect size, so it's not too small, not too big. The blade is not too wide, and it's a little bit with a belly, which helps to create a nice cutting action. So yeah, I love it very much.
Yeah,
cool.
I think Peter from Soulwood is planning on doing different draw knives, and so this is the only recommendation I can give. I haven't tried any others. I have the draw knife from File, and that has really flat grinded angles, and I don't really like that too much. So the little bit convex grind helps me a lot to create these swoops. because I think in general, normally the draw knife normally wants to create more like really flat lines and flat surfaces. And with the spoon, you always want to create like curves. So that's why, and to go into a curve, you always need a little bit of convex.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So
any other questions?
I feel like with some people, when you watch them work, you want to ask them, have you considered finding this tool that does this? Or have you thought about getting a draw knife that's bent so you can carve the bow with the draw knife? But I think when you watch George work, you can be confident that if there's a tool out there that he's at least considered it. If not, he would have it if he thought it was valuable.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like these are the tools that have gone through the crucible of George's work, and you know, these are the tools he's arrived at on purpose.
Yeah, there are many tools like going through my hands, and I put them aside and store them, or I keep them and love them and use them. So yeah, normally when I have a tool which is regular in use, it's one of a few.
Yep.
Okay, so if no further questions, I just can continue with another one.
Sure.
All right, so the idea with this one is it's a radial spoon, and George is going to go through from beginning to end without stopping for questions, so we'll get kind of real time.
So George, if you could also put the exact dimensions of your chopping block, the angles that the branches come off of the chopping block, the widths and the diameter of those branches. I'm just kidding.
I want to know the weight and what kind of wood it is.
So I have no idea what kind of wood it is, but it smells really nice. It's some kind of cedar or something like that. And it was growing in my grand aunt's garden and was cut down a few years ago. And I always kept it because of this funny branches sticking out. And actually there are so many different parts where you like it with different uses. And Lee John Phillip, I was honored by Lee John Phillip that he was drawing my X block. And I was really like, wow, he was drawing my X block. I was so proud of that. And
oh, that's cool.
So yeah, blessed.
Yeah, he's in that free download ebook that Emmett and Lee John Phillips did about axe blocks.
And it's George's.
Cool. Well, it's his is one of many.
But sometimes I think mine look the most strange.
Oh, it was definitely one of the gnarliest of all the ones in there.
Yeah. So I start with the crank again. Oh, yeah.
So this piece is already squared off, so you can go right to the crank.
Yeah, it's already messed up, I think, because I have a split over here. So I went a little bit too aggressive. I wonder. I have to see if I can save it. So that's not going to be a deep bowl.
This is like watching your favorite, professional musician make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, he is human.
Would you spin it around and put the bowl on the other side then? Use that for the back of the handle?
That's what I was going to ask.
That's a good idea. Okay, then it won't be a spoon with the hook.
It won't have a hump on it?
No, it'll have a hump. You might just be able to get a hook.
Wasn't the hump on the other side?
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. I cut the yeah. No, I stay with this side. So I was yesterday in the dark cutting this log, and yeah, I just cut this wrong.
That's right. It just won't be as deep a bowl.
Let's just start the whole thing over. Can you get another tangential blank and we'll go back to the beginning? Oh, now we're frozen. It's like seeing the guitarist, like the string breaks on their guitar in the middle of their solo track. That's what it's like.
Exactly. Have you ever seen, there's that YouTube video of Stevie Ray Vaughan in the midst of solo, snaps a string, carries on like a boss, of course, and then literally has a roadie come out and he switches guitar, like, and carries on like seamlessly, perfectly seamlessly.
Insane. That's the coolest guitar video that maybe exists. It's
it's
so awesome. How seamless it does it.
I would argue that the other probably coolest one I think I've ever seen is the what was the song? Was it it was one of the big things where they had all the different people and Prince takes the solo on was it George Harrison, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, or My Back Page? I don't remember which one. It was a classic, I think George Harrison rocks, song, and Prince comes out and takes this guitar solo that just blows everybody away. At the very end, instead of mic drop, it's just sort of like tosses the guitar out into the audience.
I got to look that up. I've never seen that one.
Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing.
Look at the chips flying off from that view. You could really see the size of the chips that were flying off. Yesterday, I was talking to Matt Day, who really doesn't want to have to go after George on the spoon template.
Oh, yeah.
It would be like doing the guitar solo after Prince in that video.
Right, exactly. Like who wants to follow that?
Right, you imagine Prince hands you the guitar and goes, "Here, your turn."
Yeah.
I think there's a scene in Great Balls of Fire where Jerry Lewis, that's not his name, Jerry
Lee Lewis,
where he's not the closer, so he sets the piano on fire, and then he says to the closer, "Here, the stage is yours," after the piano's on fire and the audience has gone insane.
Yeah, it really is amazing how efficient George is at removing wood. Holy crap.
What I like is the way he spins the X block around, he like repositions the spoon, and then he just hits it. Like he knows exactly what he's doing next, and he swings that axe with total confidence.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like when I'm axing, it's like tick, 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 tick.
There you see, he kind of creates that first cut and then rides he does it with a bump cut, and then he kind of creates a spot for his axe to go.
Yeah. And that's where I would then be off with my swing and go right into the middle of the bowl and split out the whole end.
I was recently exposed to the idea that if you cut down the end grain that way with your axe, you can create splits that open up later, but I don't know if that's true if you do it right.
I like how when George was drawing on the handle, he came, say, from the left side of the bowl and then at the neck swooped over to the right side of the handle so that line was nice flow.
Yeah, the crossover there.
When you try to draw that instead of doing a crossover, it always looks a little...
It always looks funky, and that's where I always end up being asymmetrical because they never match.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great trick for making those lines match, is that they actually match inside the line that you cut away.
So I know George works really fast, but do you guys think he's working exceptionally fast to try to be impressive for the camera today?
I don't think so. Really. I think this is George in his kind of standard mode. He strikes me as sort of a high energy, get in, get her done, get out kind of person.
I've asked George on Rise Up, can you point the camera at you? I'd love to see how you do that spoon work. And you get into one side conversation about something, and then George goes, "So here, it's done. Do you have any questions?" And you're like, "Damn it, I missed the whole thing."
In the practice yesterday, George was probably half as fast again as this, and he was relaxed and talking and chatting and just mind-blowing.
Which, by the way, both of those practice videos are posted up on YouTube, and this one will get posted up hopefully later today.
So you can watch me react like a jackass the first time I'm watching George, like I'm watching NASCAR, like I'm watching a NASCAR race. Holy fuck! This is the step here where I want to I want to throw my spoon knives in the trash. The way he so fast hollowing out that bowl with the gouge.
Just buy a Nick Westerman.
Get on that list if you're not on it.
I have a swan neck gouge, but I don't think mine does the same stuff as George's.
None of my knives work the way George's do.
My draw knife certainly doesn't work the way George's does. Must be the draw knife.
Yeah, right. It's in the tool.
Always blame it on the draw knife.
Not even my pens work the way George's pens work.
Right.
So just so that you know, we will be selling as a fundraising mechanism George's autographs. He will be, autographing, signature draw knives and spoons, and we'll be selling those on Rise Up and Carve. George has graciously agreed to donate all the proceeds from that to Rise Up and Carve. Thank you, George.
Wow.
Okay.
I want to know, George, what angle do you sharpen your pencil to?
I have a pencil grind sharpener, how do you say, from my mother, which makes a really, really nice, really tippy angle. So yeah, I can really recommend that one. It's
well,
one of these boxes where you put the pencil in and then you...
Yeah.
I love
the funny thing is, this reminds me so much of, there's a guitar player, Eric Johnson, who played a song called Cliffs of Dover back in the 80s, which was like, he's like the guitarist guitar player. Yeah. And he's known to be like this super tone perfectionist. So he has like all this vintage gear and he's like a perfectionist about his instruments and the exact, strings and the gauges that he uses. And it even gets down to like people started joking about the fact that like what brand of battery he uses in his effects units and exactly how old they are, tracking the hours, because there's a sweet spot when the batteries get to a certain age that the amount of power they're putting. So George is like the Eric Johnson of the spoon carving world.
Yeah, my brother tells a story where he asked his guitar teacher in college, this amazing guitar teacher, how Eric Clapton got this special tone during some part of the solo, and the guitar teacher just laughed and said, "We all want to know how he gets that tone." I don't have an answer for you.
Well, and then the funny thing is though, like I've seen videos where people like Eric Johnson, like they'll take and put just like some other player's gear in his hands, and he still sounds like Eric Johnson.
Oh yeah, it's not right.
Because it's in the hands, more than anything else. Yes, all that other stuff contributes, but so much of it's just in the playing, in the hands.
It would be fun to take a carver like George or Oren or somebody who's really comfortable with their tools and process and have them work in like my shop.
Right.
See how they adapt to other tools, because there's probably value in that too, and seeing how they adapt to other tools that aren't their own.
Yeah.
Send me some tools. I'll try it out.
I was waiting for that. We'll just have to supply the airfare and bring them over.
I don't think that would work with George, because he's probably got all of your tools in any case.
I was going to say, yeah. True that.
I've been doing these tool time hangouts, and we're definitely going to do one in the future where you try to bring a tool that George doesn't have.
That's right. Stump the George.
I want to do that too. I want to invite Tom and George and Eichel Bray and have people try to bring a tool that they can't identify. That's a whole follow X, yeah.
I can name that tool in a 10 by 10 pixel picture of it.
We'll just have to host, we'll have to host a Rise Up Spoon gathering where we take carvers with a set collection of tools that's already like on the stage.
Well, the other thing is, and I was thinking about this, we might do this maybe later in the summer, is do a one tool spoon.
Yeah, I'd really like
challenge.
I'd like to try a one tool spoon, or one like knife spoon, or like an all axe spoon.
Yeah.
That would be cool. We could also do in 2 weeks' time how many people bought spoon mules and cut themselves. That would be a good one. After watching this video.
Yeah, I'm losing myself in the spoon, in the knife work.
Oh, you picked up a knife just to chamfer one thing, and then you ended up using it for a lot of things?
Yeah.
God.
I'd be curious to know how many people out there actually have spoon mules.
I don't. I have a shave horse. I dream of building the spoon mule head, but I've been dreaming of that for a year and a half.
I just got my plans shipped off, I think, on Thursday from Dawson. I bought those plans.
Yeah.
And later this summer, in the end of August, I'm going to Michigan, to the Michigan Folk School to do a 2-day course with Dawson, you know, and because it's what's available. There's nothing near me that, you know, and I've watched all the YouTube videos. So
Well, I know from talking to George that he has a second spoon mule in the works when he has lots of ideas to improve the design.
Awesome.
Well, and then there's also that guy in Korea that like does the sort of basically the rope version, you know, that where it comes down through a head, and it's basically just like a rope or a strap that holds, that you basically press down on, you know, like has like a foot pedal, and you press down on it and it locks it in place. And that you can like twist the spoon in just about any direction. It'll hold it on like even on an angle. It's pretty amazing. If you look up, if you do a search for the tag on Instagram, Moksin Horse, MOKSIN horse, it's a very interesting, this guy is a really cool woodworker. First of all, he's just an amazing woodworker, but he's come up with some really interesting designs for work holding devices.
John Warburton has a pretty cool work holding device that looks like he made it pretty simply and inexpensively.
Yep.
Yeah, I also have like a mule for the gouge. I think you all saw that, but I can quickly pick it up. But it's not good for the draw knife. It's just swallowing the bowl. I just can.
Yeah.
George was building recently a travel mule that fits over one knee. I don't know if he completed that.
Yeah,
I saw that. There was a guy with an Instagram video where basically it's like a pair of wood sticks that are on 2 dowels that you just basically push like your knee up, and it locks it into place, so you can just use it right there in your lap.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's his version of it.
George just built it.
So this is really simple. Just 2 dowels, a few washers. So I saw that on Instagram, but the guy had only like 3 of this top thingies. So I like to be this as a tableau, and here it's nice to rest your second foot. So and you just.
Oh, that is cool.
Actually. Now I can clamp the spoon like that and use.
Oh, look at it. That looks even more comfortable for your wrist than.
Yeah. So I have this tableau. I can't step my knee or something like that with the gouge. I can twist the spoon in various directions. I think it's also really good for the tweaker clamp. So I don't like to use the tweaker clamp on the spoon wheel because it's like this. It's for the tweaker clamp. It's more nice if you have it like that, and you can use the tweaker clamp like that.
Yeah, totally.
So,
hey George, can you take some pictures of that and post it on Instagram?
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool.
That seems like a pretty low bar if you just want to get
I was going to say, man, I'm making one of those like next weekend.
Yeah, I wanted something for transportation to be able to just, you can attach a backpack. When you lose the screws, you can fold it together to a very small thing, and you can even bring it out in the woods or something like that. Because when you are used to spoon mule ones, it's really a pain in the ass to carve a spoon without it.
Yeah.
And then you want something even when you're somewhere. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's really cool. I like it.
Yes. So that's my demo. 2 spoons. I finished yesterday.
Did anybody time that? How long did it take him to do that second spoon?
It was about 18 minutes, about 16 to 18 minutes.
Wow.
I thought about timing it, and I forget every time, but we have the video too. You time it in the video. It's real time in the video. But thanks, Rachel, for timing it.
Yeah,
really cool, George.
Yeah, thank you for letting me showing this stuff. So, and I can recommend to everyone to just build your spoon mule, because so I only had this bench from wood I found in a container, and so it's still just not really, it's not a really spoon mule. It's just banged together, and I just have these 2 holdfasts which are holding the head on the bench. So it's really okay. I want to spoon mule now, and I just throw some things together, and I still work this piece. So it's a little bit unstable, and the plans from Dawson are much nicer and much more perfect and everything. But I rather have a shitty spoon mule than no spoon mule.
Right. Can you imagine the frustration when George watches us work and he's like, why don't they just build a spoon mule?
Well, George has been saying that for what? About the nearly 2 years that I've known George on Rise Up a Car. The killer part of it is I see this?
Right, you have a spoon mule. Yeah.
I have the spoon mule. I just barely use it. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? I'm like George Costanza.
So really, the best recommendation what comes with the spoon mule is this gouge. And you have to find someone who grind these edges off. So yeah, this is like really just, you can just go, and it's cheap. It's like, I think $30 or euros.
No, they're not here in the US anyway. If you go to get those from a distributor, the only distributor that I know of officially in the US is Woodcraft, and those larger gouges are all up around $80 or $90 a piece.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, then you can order a Dictum in Germany and pay another 20 for shipping and get some other stuff. And they are
those gouges off of Amazon?
Something. So
I thought I'd butt in and mention that these ones you can get almost as good and are much, much cheaper.
Which?
Yeah.
Stree. Same profile, like a deep bent gouge, right?
Yeah.
But obviously George has rounded off the cutting edge on his.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But I'm just saying that these are much cheaper and they're not actually bad. They're quite good.
Yeah, I've seen another brand out there also that just recently has been advertising in like Wood Carving Illustrated called Scharf. That are here in the US, and they're also much cheaper.
Julian, which one was that?
What was that, Jeff?
What was that gouge, Julian?
Well, I'll put it in the chat, but here's a little comparison between the two. So the feel one that George was showing us is much beefier and has a proper tang. And these ones, if you're doing light duty, like you're not going to use a mallet on them, they work just fine. But if you're going to use a mallet, I definitely get one of these.
Yeah.
And it's Stryi, like Stryi.
Do you know where they're made, Julian?
Somewhere in Northern Europe, I think. Maybe,
so,
right?
So this is a 38 millimeter bowl, and it fits nearly perfectly. So it's, I think, 36 diameter. So that will be 18 millimeter radius for that gouge.
That's what
90 millimeter radius.
That's what the number 8 is, right? It's pretty standardized across.
So 30 is the width, the L is that shape, and the 8 is, yeah.
Is the radius, yeah.
But it's not an 8 millimeter radius.
No, it's not. It's not like a measured radius. It's a standard, and there's two different standards, as I understand it, because there's other manufacturers out there like Ario or whatever that use a slightly different numbering system for, but it's the same sort of thing where a 1 is a flat for file, 1 is a flat all the way up to a 9, which is like a U, and then a 12, I think, is a V gouge. So, or maybe the 11 is the U, I forget.
Yeah.
But anyway, great demo, George. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. This was definitely eye-opening and really well done. So congratulations. Well done. Thank you. With that, I think we're all set. So Kevin, if you want to stop the recording, and I will be posting this up onto YouTube, hopefully later today.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Kevin, for the talking and explaining in between.
You're very welcome. Thank you, George. Thanks, Chuck.